If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. Thank you.
It's your time for Chai with Nanice. Get ready for substance, clarity, change, and especially empowerment. Get ready to turn over stones, uncover stories, and get to the heart of the matter in every area of your life. Any mood runs, any emotion flies, and your dreams are within your grasp. There are no limits or boundaries, and your comfort zone is out of reach, yet it's the safest place you will ever be. Come in, sit down, and have some chai with Nanice.
Welcome to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. Today we're talking about the death penalty. Now I know it might sound like a different type of format for the show, but I assure you, it is not. What we are really talking about is crime and punishment from the perspective of spirituality. While listening to the show, keep in mind that the concept of the death penalty is a metaphor for how people treat each other when they believe they have been wronged. My guest today is Ralph Dellapiana. He is a public defender for those accused of homicide in the state of Utah, as well as the director of Utahns for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. His mission is to wipe out the death penalty. Although he is focusing on Utah right now, that focus will extend to the rest of the country once Utah is a death penalty-free state. Welcome, Ralph.
Thank you, Nanice. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you here. So I'm really excited about this conversation because when we usually talk about the death penalty, we don't really look at it from a perspective of spirituality. And that's really where I want to go today with the show. But before we even go there, can you share with me and share with the viewers having chai with us today, what even brought you to that place where you decided that you would take it upon yourself?
Yes. I represent, as you indicated, people charged with death penalty cases. And as having that responsibility for somebody's life in my hands, it occurred to me that it was at a fundamental level just wrong. It felt so wrong that the state was trying to kill my client that I from the deepest part of my soul, I just felt overwhelmed with the rightness of trying to end the death penalty, not just to protect my clients, but for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, in the middle of the night,
yeah,
I woke up. It was 3 o'clock with a vision that I should focus my efforts on not just my cases, but on ending the death penalty in Utah, and then beyond if when I'm done I'm done with Utah.
Of course. Yeah. So it's interesting because you have worked with people not only accused of murder, but people that you have known or know for a fact did commit the murder. And so you're having this connection with somebody you know to be a murderer, and yet you're still feeling so much compassion for that person, knowing all the details, seeing all the horrific photos, and maybe even talking to the families of the victim, the person who found the body, the police, all this. So you're basically having a download of the experience, and yet somehow you're feeling compassion. Most people are wondering, how could that be?
It's true. Most people's first reaction, at least historically, things are changing a little bit now, but at least historically has been, an eye for an eye.
Yes.
Old Testament wrath of God. Let's kill those people. Mm-hmm. But there's been some changes in other states, in public opinion polls, in the world. Really, there's been a change towards a belief that the death penalty is no longer appropriate in a civilized society, and so that's been helpful to my work. As I try to push that change along.
But that doesn't create compassion. I mean, that's in your head.
Yeah.
You know, what you just said, it's true, but it's in your head.
Yes. Okay. Well, and I guess what you're talking about is what was in my heart.
Right.
And really, what I think deep down is in people's hearts, if they look inside and think about it, and say, should we be killing people? Mm-hmm. They'll feel that it's wrong, and it's wrong at a fundamental level. We shouldn't, we can't. It's cruel and barbaric, and it drags us down to the level of the people who have committed murders, and we need to all together. We need to take a more positive view. That's why the vision that you have of looking at the death penalty from a spiritual point of view is so important right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will, and you're right. I've as I started this project, I was more interested in things like finding out reasons people would support my fight against the death penalty, and things like that it costs a lot of money, or it's ineffective, or things like that are important to some people, but to other people, I think they will be more open to the sense of it's just morally wrong to kill, and we shouldn't kill people.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that somehow, instead of becoming desensitized to people who killed people, you never closed your heart. Your heart remained open, and you went deep down inside yourself and found that space, which you're right, is in all of us if we look deep enough, that told you that killing is not right. And in fact, when we kill somebody as punishment for them killing somebody, aren't we doing the same thing? I mean, they had a reason. They had a reason. Okay, maybe it had to do with protection. Maybe it had to do with feeling like they were a victim. Maybe it had to do with needing, money for their family. Who knows? There's tons of reasons. They had a reason. Not a reason is not an excuse, but they had a reason. And then we're saying we have a reason for killing them and feel justified about it. But it looks the same to me.
It is in many senses. In fact, it's worse in one sense. In most of the cases I've handled, people that were ended up killing somebody didn't plan it out ahead of time. It was it just something that happened. Right. It could have been during a robbery, or it could have been during an escape attempt, or it could have been that they were confronted and there was a fight, and maybe they overreacted. But what the government is doing is premeditated.
Yes.
It's planned out in advance.
So should we kill the government?
Well, we should save the government.
Yes.
By the way, we are the government.
We are the government.
People keep blaming the government for
but we are the government.
Everything. People blame the government for the economy.
Yeah.
People blame the government for the war.
Yeah.
We need to take responsibility for our country.
Because as soon as we put it outside of ourselves, we give our power away and nothing happens. And so if we realize that we are all the things that we are blaming for our situations, personal and as a community or a country or a world or whatever, then nothing changes.
Right. It starts with responsibility. And you're right. If you give that away, give that up, then you lose your power. And but we need to understand that we have control. We need to control our government. We need to take responsibility. Because, as I was saying, what the government does is it's a conspiracy to to kill somebody, and that's murder, and it's just wrong, and the government shouldn't kill people to show that killing people is wrong.
Right. That's like, your child does something, your child hits a neighbor's kid, and you hit the child to punish them. It's the same thing. What is that child going to learn? Is that child going to learn that I shouldn't hit or that I should hit? The child's going to learn most likely that hitting is right.
I can remember this lady in a store not too long ago who had two children, and they were kind of struggling with each other, and one of them kind of hit the other, and she says, "Stop hitting Stop hitting your brother! I'll slap you upside the head." And it's like, and it's like, it is the same, and I think people who are raised like that end up being the same. I mean, it's a cycle of violence, and the way to end that is to teach compassion, and to teach love and acceptance. And it's not just with your children, but I think the same thing applies to crime and punishment.
Yes.
If we look at the opportunity to help people change in a positive way, instead of just locking them up in a tiny little room and prohibiting them from living in the world, and always subjecting them to punishment and restriction instead of this is so important, instead of providing them with encouragement to change their lives, to learn, to grow, to try to affect the world around them in a positive way. That's the essence of what we call rehabilitation. We claim that's our goal. Right. But I promise you that's not what happens in prison. In prison, the prisons are very violent. Prisons are very restrictive. It's just the opposite of what we should be doing, because it just engenders this cycle of violence.
Yes.
And there was one case, I remember, for example, this is one minor example of a positive thing. In Washington State, they had a program where they paroled a certain number of people from the prison early. They gave them, they helped them find a place to live. They gave them $600 a month.
Wow.
And help them find jobs, and if they wanted to go to school, help them sign up for school. And an extremely small percentage of those people who were encouraged ended up committing new crimes, where among the population generally, it's more than half go back to prison. Right. And so making a positive opportunity for them changed their lives and changed the lives of the people around them.
Right.
We should do more of that.
Yes, absolutely. Because what I'm hearing you say is that prisons reinforce the dynamic, reinforce the behavior, reinforce needing a prison.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Where if we well, for example, I mean, and just in terms of, let me just give an example of the benefit.
Yeah.
To lock somebody up costs, in California, for example, like $40,000 a year. On death row, it's $90,000 a year. Now, that's enough money. And for most people, I mean, there may be a few mentally ill, violent offenders who are beyond the reach of this sort of a plan. But for many of them, for half of that much, you could get them a place to live, pay for school, get them, help them get a job. I mean, and not only would we save money, but we would save people.
Right.
And the more people that are saved that way, the more positive environment everybody lives in.
Because right now our punishment system doesn't really punish for a crime; it punishes for a person's life. So it's like every time we say, you did something wrong, you're going to be punished, you're going to jail, what we're really doing is saying your life is wrong and you don't deserve to have it.
That's quite an insight. I mean, it's we don't think about that. I'm telling you, in the world I live and work in, which is where I mean, 5 days a week. Well, actually work on weekends too.
Yeah, I know you do.
But on a daily basis, I'm in court. And there's the defense attorneys and the judges and the prosecutors, and we bring the police in, and we have hearings and trials, and it's all negative. It's all designed to compel and punish, and there's nothing positive about it. It creates this negative energy, and people don't people just don't respond to that in a
Right.
positive way. They respond in a similar way.
Exactly. It's interesting because listening to you say that, I realized that it creates something else. And so it's like when we focus on you did all these things wrong, you did all these things wrong, that it's almost like the person is being told that, I'm not sure how to say this, but there's a message. So by telling the person that your life is wrong, making them wrong in every way because it's pervasive. They show that it's pervasive through that person's life. What happens is everybody else feels better. And the reason that everybody else feels better is because if we could figure out why that person is wrong and show the world why that person is wrong, then everybody else can say, okay, I can never be like that.
Yes, right. I hear what you're saying, and and I agree with that. It's making somebody else wrong makes you feel better about yourself, but it's such a short-sighted viewpoint.
Right.
It shows a lack of sense of self. Mm-hmm. People who have a strong sense of their self are more likely to be able to be compassionate for others because they don't feel that need to bring other people down. Mm-hmm. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, I think, and things are changing so quickly now, but I think for most of our history that we have been so identified with the ego and so identified with a need for security that we have developed these strategies in order to make ourselves feel safe and feel better then. And I think that the whole idea of the death penalty and even imprisonment comes out of that concept. Because if somebody's feeling unsafe, then if security is an issue, then they're going to look for ways to feel safe in their life.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, Nanice, do you sense a change in the world in regards to that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you briefly describe what it is, this sense that you have of the change in the world? Because
yes.
I'd like to, I think there's some evidence of it that I see in relation to what's been happening with the death penalty recently.
Right.
But what is the spiritual change?
Sure. What I see is absolutely amazing. I mean, I've been seeing change happen for a while now, but recently, the last few months, and even since the beginning of this year, change has been enormous. So from a more of a cognitive perspective, the energies are always changing. The energies on this planet are always in flux. And what quantum physics now will tell us is that we're all energy and everything is energy, and that there's even energies coming in from outside this planet. Whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, the absolute, it doesn't matter. There's a higher vibration of energies that are coming into this planet. And what that does is accelerate change. Now, I totally believe that everything that ever happens in our life, good, bad, and different, absolutely everything is always pointing us towards awakening. It is always pointing us towards God and oneness and knowing who we really are. Now, it may not seem like that, but I totally know that that is the case. And so, if everything is pointing us towards enlightenment, towards God, and these energies are accelerating on our planet where our vibration is raising, then suddenly we're going to be able to get things. Suddenly we're going to be able to understand things that in the past we just couldn't.
That may explain, and if I may,
please.
I'd like to give some examples of how things have been changing in regards to the death penalty. Mm-hmm. Worldwide, there are 134 countries that have banned the death penalty, and only about a third or probably a fourth of that still use the death penalty. And over the last 30 years, 58 additional countries have ended the death penalty. And now, and just including the whole European Union, the sort of countries that still have the death penalty are China, Iran, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, North Korea, the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't. We shouldn't be involved with that. In my view, we shouldn't be involved in that with those sorts of countries anyway. But let me get back to the changes. And then within the United States, 34 states still have the death penalty, but just in the last 8 years, Illinois declared a moratorium in 2001 because of so many wrongful convictions. New York ended their death penalty in 2004. New Jersey repealed its death penalty in 2008. And right now, just today, New Mexico abolition bill, or bill to abolish the death penalty, passed their House of Representatives, 40 to 28. Other bills to end the death penalty are pending in Montana, Nebraska, Colorado, New Hampshire, Washington, and Kansas.
Wow.
And so there's a change.
Yes.
Now there's still some people that have a complete block and are stuck in the past, stuck in this we got to punish, and it's kind of a 50-50 struggle right now, and so but it is a struggle. It is a struggle that's happening right now, and those of us who can see a vision of a changed world need to act now.
Yes.
Need to act now, and people who are listening to this program, for example, who are interested in fighting for this sort of new world view, need to reply, need to email, need to get involved, because the people who are listening to this program have power within them.
Yes,
I
they
know.
do.
I've been looking over some of the sorts of things that you do on your show, and people who listen to this have the power, need to act.
Absolutely. And so would it be okay if they contacted you?
Of course.
Yeah, is that what you want? Is that where you're going?
I can put
Yeah. And so my email address is a little bit easier than yours right now, so you can just contact me at Nanice@nanice.com, or just go to my website, nanice.com, NANICE.com, and just click on contact. And I will forward any and every email to Ralph, and he'll respond directly to you. So, yeah. And what I hear you say is that you see a new world vision coming into play, and things are changing. And I totally, absolutely agree with that. What I see regarding the question that you asked me, I see people healing wounds that they've had for 30 years. I see people making shifts in their life that they've tried to make 500 times without success, and suddenly there's success. And the reason I know it's success is because the dynamic that kept the issue in place, gone. I see people forgiving others that they thought they could never forgive. I see people suddenly coming to themselves and really wanting to feel love for themselves. I see people knowing that it's not about anybody else, that it's just about them, and that everything that they see out in the world and out in their life is just a reflection of who they are or who they've been. I see people beginning to realize that they're responsible for their lives. I see people opening up in ways they never thought possible, that their friends and their family and the world never thought possible. I see enormous change. And it's happening really fast now. I mean, we were kind of stuck, kind of in the dark ages, so to speak, for quite a while. But now, this change is happening so fast. It is so amazing. And I am so excited and so proud to be on this planet at this time. Isn't this a great time to be on the planet?
I love this time. I love this planet. And frankly, it's only been recently that I have had a vision of the power that's within me.
Yes.
And if I can note that as we say,
Please.
note for the record,
Yes, please.
that that you, Nanice, are the person who put me on the path to see that I had the power within me to change things, that I had the power to make my world different. I've read your books. I've spent time with you where you gave me some coaching when I needed it, and you've frankly helped me see that not only is there the power in the world to change, but that I don't have to look outside of myself to find it. And it was in that moment of self-awareness and sense of power that I had the power the ability to say, I'm going to do something extraordinary.
Wow.
I have the power to change the world.
Wow.
I have the power to end the death penalty. And people have so much power that goes that they don't use.
Yeah.
And we all need to look inside and on a daily basis.
Yes.
It's not even just end the death
Yes.
penalty. It's how are you interacting with your family today?
Right, because it's not about the death penalty.
That's an example.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
an example of.
It's a metaphor. I mean, the death penalty it's an extreme of how we treat each other, but it's just a metaphor. So if we punish people because we want retribution, if we punish people doing what we're telling them that they did wrong, so if we murder someone because they murdered someone, if we're perpetuating the behavior, adding to the dynamic, this is what we're doing in our own lives.
Right. You're perpetuating, you're punishing a child.
Right.
Instead of loving them and encouraging them. You're fighting with your partner and making them wrong.
Yes.
So that you feel better.
So you feel better. And it's the separation. And that's what we've lived in. We've lived in a very, very, very long time of separation. Thousands of years of separation. And now that separation the veil between us is beginning to drop. The veil between us is beginning to disappear. And we are beginning to realize that we are all one. That we are all part of the one, and we are all of the one at the same time. And so what I believe is that because this is changing, that the world will change too. And so as we have been punishing each other, and particularly ourselves, we're so good at punishing ourselves.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So it's like, here's a good example. Okay. So let's say you go and you have a binge and you eat like a whole chocolate cake. Right? Now, what a lot of people do when the guilt and the shame hits them from eating the whole chocolate cake, they go eat another one. So it's like you're doing the same thing to punish yourself that you did to get punished. And we do this all the time in all areas of our lives. I mean, we even unconsciously pick partners that are the same as the one that we made wrong. Because we made a stupid mistake and, we don't deserve a good person, so we attract the same kind all over again. And that's certainly, there's a more dynamics that go on there, but that is a piece of it.
So when we do that, I'm interested more in this oneness thing. How does that affect when we punish somebody else or make them wrong? How does that affect us individually and as a community, as a world?
Oh, excellent question. Okay, so when we shift responsibility and we punish somebody else, and by the way, there's people thinking, well, they did hurt me. Okay, I'm going to tell you right here, no one can hurt you. When you know who you really are, when you get in touch with your power, no one can hurt you. Okay, so back to the question. So what happens when we shift responsibility and blame somebody else or want to punish somebody else is, first of all, we give our power away to them. If it's always someone else's fault, then we can't do anything to change the situation. So that makes us the victim. We are not the victim because we think somebody did something to us. We're the victim because we have given our power away to them. We've made ourselves powerless because we think that they did something to us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We feel how we think that, and that's a made up. I mean, we're making that up when we do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's
all a story.
It's a story. It's not true. I mean, it's and so what do you do then if you're in that situation? Then
first a little bit more because it's like when you do that, that's why you see the same person being a victim over and over again, right? You've seen that, right?
Right.
This person was mugged 3 times in a year, or whatever, or this person, their house was broken into, none of their neighbors' houses were broken into, their house was broken into twice this month, right? So it's that energy, because as soon as you blame someone else for doing something to you, you make yourself an energetic victim, which attracts more of the same. Okay, so that happens. The other thing that happens is, let's look at the death penalty, for example. All right, so I believe that everything we do and every thought we have and every belief we hold puts an energy out into the world. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. A butterfly, flaps his wings in Australia, and somebody in Kansas is affected by it. It affects everything because we're connected. There's only one energy. So it's kind of like, if you look at it like, when you think of your body and all the cells in your body, you don't say that I don't have many cells in the body, trillions, I'm trillions of beings. No, you say you're one being. Okay, because all the cells are part of your body. You don't go around naming them and making them different. You don't want them to compete against each other. Right? Right. You don't want one to win over the other. You'd be dead. Okay. And of course, that's what we're doing in the world. Okay. So we're all connected energetically. And so let's say somebody goes out and they do a terrible crime. Let's say they kill somebody, for example. And so they are putting that out into the energetic field. Okay. We know that.
I got that.
Now, they get arrested. They go to jail. They get killed. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what's happening is the premeditated decision around murdering that person, all the people that were involved in making sure that person is punished, all the people that watched it on TV and said, oh good, I'm so glad he's dead, all the people that had any kind of energy on that, on the killing of him or the punishment of him, think about how many ripples that's sending out into the world.
Negative ripples.
Negative ripples. Yeah, energy that perpetuates exactly what we say we're trying to get away from. So it's huge. It's huge when we try to punish somebody, when we shift responsibility.
Let me give an example of people. This is the best example I can think of, and it relates to the death penalty specifically, and not just the one that affects us all metaphorically,
yes.
but where the state tries to kill people.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk about the families of murder victims, and who more than they would have feel that it was justified in getting revenge.
Yeah.
And I've met some of these people and spoke with them, and recently went to a national conference of people who were working to end the death penalty. And there were representatives of a couple of national organizations that represented nothing but the family members of people who had been killed. And they had, and what they described was initially the sense of wanting revenge.
Yes.
And they wanted justice.
Yes.
And they would show up and argue their case and say this person needed to die. But over time,
yes.
many of them started to understand that what was happening to them was a really deeply negatively impacting them.
Yes.
And they became to have come to have a high level of disillusionment about the system and frustration.
Yeah.
And one of the most significant things that one of these victims' family members said to me, this woman whose 7-year-old daughter had been kidnapped and murdered, was that at the end of the day, and it took her some years to get to this point, she realized that what she was doing was the same thing. And that she did not want her beautiful little granddaughter's memory spoiled by the idea that she had killed somebody in her name.
Yeah.
And what a dramatic and emotional and powerful message these family members have. And they go around, there's dozens of them. They go around the country. They speaking wherever they can to groups or to schools or at rallies or to legislatures to say, look, don't kill for me.
Right.
Don't kill for me.
Right.
Because they're trying to bring a sense of compassion and reconciliation. In fact, one of the groups is Murder Victims Families for Reconciliation. And they have websites, and there's lots of opportunity to get involved in this sort of thing. For people who, if you know somebody, if you've been in a situation and you want to speak out in support of compassion and reconciliation and rehabilitation, you need to step forward. You need to take that energy and share it and help make that change the world around you, because that was probably the most touching thing for me with those people who would have a right, would have a right to demand revenge, who came to see after suffering through that. Now, most people, they just never are put in that situation to be forced to make a change.
Right.
We just kind of sit back. We watch the news.
Yes.
Somebody's prosecuted. Somebody's convicted.
Yes.
Somebody's maybe sentenced to death or maybe not. And it's oh well, and they don't realize that what you're saying, the effect it's having on everybody, and the negativity and punishment and cycle of violence that it creates.
Yes.
And so when I heard these victims' families come forward with this huge sense of compassion, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, those are the people, if they can do it, then all of us can.
Right.
And not just in regards to the actual death penalty.
Right, exactly. Right.
But in our, how did you put it? It affects us in our, it's a metaphor for our lives.
It's a metaphor for our lives. How we need to make somebody wrong and punish them and get retribution. Because we feel separate, because we want to feel safe, we want to protect ourselves, all these things go on, and it perpetuates the cycle. Absolutely. Absolutely. I even remember, and I wish I could remember the particular stories right now, but I have read and heard about the families of victims actually going to jails and forgiving the person who murdered their daughter, son, mother, whoever, and that's pretty remarkable.
It's astonishing, really, but it's those people. It's kind of the same sort of thing. I thought I was shocked when I saw that sort of thing. I said, wow, that's unusual. Is that Mother Teresa or who? I mean, 'cause you don't think. You think it has to be somebody with really special spiritual insights who can do that.
Right.
And frankly, it is, but we have that in us.
Yes, we do.
We have it in us. We suppress it or we don't recognize it.
Yes.
But it's in us, and it just doesn't come out unless we're forced to make a choice, forced to recognize it, forced to deal with it. Or at least if we become aware.
Right.
Not even if you're forced. I mean, you can choose
Absolutely.
to deal with that. These people, they're forced to deal with it, and it changes their lives. Yes. The rest of us, just kind of need to shake our heads and kind of get rid of the cobwebs and wipe off the dust from our hearts and brains and and realize that we have this power to choose in every moment.
In every moment. In every moment.
In every moment.
Yes.
We can
That's
choose
beautiful.
to be compassionate. In part, not just with people who've hurt us, but with people who care about us.
And with ourselves.
Oh, you keep saying that.
I know, because that's where it is. Because it's like if we don't have compassion for ourselves, there's no way we can have compassion for anybody else. It's like first have compassion for yourself, and then it overflows from you, and you can't help but have compassion for someone else.
Wow. See, I always learn something. That's one that I don't know. I need to become more in tune with that concept.
Being more compassionate for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I beat myself up.
Yeah.
I do something that, you know.
Yeah. Do you know I never beat myself up? I mean, I look at feedback. I'm like, okay, maybe I can improve on that, you know. But I just look at it as feedback. I never make myself wrong. I used to. For decades and decades, I tortured myself. But now it's been a long time for this. Yeah.
And how do you do that? Is that you just choose?
I chose it.
You chose it.
I chose it. I knew that it was keeping me from really being my true self, and it was keeping me from my power, and it was keeping me from just being who I am out in the world. So I chose it. I chose it before anything.
What you just said, being yourself, I think that in the moments of clarity, when I am happy with myself, or let me put it the other way. When I find myself beating myself up, because I do it to myself, I realize that now.
Yeah.
It's because I'm thinking of how somebody else has criticized me, or somebody else has had an opinion about me, some sort of a negative statement or a negative opinion, and I'm like, and I'm feeling that, I'm letting that sit on me.
Because you believe it. Let's say you're walking down the street and somebody comes up to you and says, your green hair looks awful. Ralph does not have green hair. He doesn't have any hair, okay? I should tell people that, okay? So how would you react if a stranger came up to you in the street and said, your green hair looks awful?
Well, to me, that I would just shake my head and wish them a good day, because they're having something happen to them.
Because you know it's not true.
I know it's not true.
You know it's not true.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, I'm getting there.
All right, so let's say you really did have green hair and you were just a little bit, you had a bad hair dye job, okay? And your hair turned green and you're really self-conscious now, okay? And you're walking through the street. You go to court, okay? And the prosecuting attorney comes up to you and says, Ralph, what happened to your hair? I can't believe you're out in public like that.
Actually, that has happened to me. It wasn't green hair, but I used to be married to a hairdresser who, when I started to get some gray hair on my chin, she would say, here, let me fix that. Because that's what she did all day.
Right.
She would, do dye jobs for people. And I let her do it, and I'm kind of colorblind, but it was somebody on the street who said, that kind of looks a little bit purple. What's up with that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I did feel bad about it.
Yeah, because you identified with it. You believed it. And so it's just like that we only take on other people's stuff when we believe it.
Right.
If we, and that's really a gift, because when somebody insults us or puts us down and we take it on, then it tells us that we have a belief system around that. It's an opportunity to change it. So again, it's not about anybody else, it's about us.
Right. So in those moments of clarity,
yes,
which I do have from time to time, I understand that if I'm judging myself,
yes,
I'm fine, because I think I'm a good person.
Yes.
If I let somebody else judge me and have the weight of that sit on my conscience or my heart or whatever, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Because I judge myself, I'm fine. Because I love myself.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's about each of us individually. That's where it starts.
It's about each of us, and it's not about anybody else. And only when we take responsibility for our stuff, only when we take responsibility for what we perceive in the world, only when we take responsibility for loving ourselves and being compassionate for ourselves and everything that goes on, that's when the world changes to meet our new vision.
That's powerful. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can remember that. That will change. I mean, because I get that every once in a while. I get that.
So here's an example.
I need to remember.
So when Dustin, my oldest son, when he was very little, and he definitely was one of those kids that got into trouble and acted out, had a little temper, all that. And at first, I would try to punish him for it. And then one day, something occurred to me that changed my life, his, and the children that I would have after him. And that was that I realized that it wasn't about him. And I stopped punishing him and trying to change him. What I did was, whenever he was acting out, I looked at myself and realized that there was something in myself that I needed to change. I would change myself, and his behavior would disappear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been true for all my kids. Once I got that, punishment went out the window because it's about me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so deep.
Yeah. And
so, but does that work with not just your kids? Does that work with other people too, or?
Absolutely. You know it does.
Well, I'm just trying to visualize
it works
myself
with everybody.
On a daily basis.
It works because people are only being mirrors and reflections for you. Now, a mirror doesn't necessarily mean that you do that exact behavior. A mirror can mean that their behavior triggers your issue about it.
Okay.
It could be so many things. I mean, that's a whole show on itself. But the point is, it's never about anybody else. It's always about us.
So if I'm having some sort of an argument with somebody or some sort of a negative interaction, I think I get now that I can just look at myself and just kind of come back to the moment with some sort of an accepting, positive sense that at least that's how I'm envisioning it now, that it could work. I'm having a thing, and I can just accept where the other person's coming from, and just be positive in the moment. Is that how you do it, or?
You become the observer, and this is a great way to end the show too. So you become the observer. So when you're triggered by someone else's behavior, or you feel like you want to get revenge or punish them or whatever, make them see their stuff, because we all want to do that. When you find yourself thinking or feeling those things, you say, wait. If it's about me, okay, what could that be? And you just look within yourself. You realize that they're just there for a mirror. And you don't even need to do anything initially. You just need to observe it. And very often the observation shifts it. Look for what it could be. So if it really was about me, what could it be? And now that opens up a different questioning in the mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Ralph, thank you so much for being on today's show. This was awesome. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there thinking a new way about the death penalty and about punishment and all that stuff. So thank you so much. And I'd love to have you back on the show sometime.
Anytime. I'm delighted to have been here.
Awesome. And so if you want to contact Ralph, you can contact him through me. You can just go to my website, nanice.com, Nanice.com. Yes, it really is that easy. And just click on contact, pop me an email, and I'll make sure he gets it. And also, while you're on the website, I have a free book download. It's my latest book. It's called I Am, and it's been getting amazing reviews, and it's free for you right now. It's right there. I'm not sure how long I'm going to have it on the website, so I definitely suggest downloading it as soon as possible and sharing that with your friends. And there's also a free song download, as you know, as my listeners know, from Jade and the Ascension Tribe. And there's a whole bunch of just really, really amazing articles on the site and resources, and just kind of check around, and I think you'll see some things that you really will enjoy and want to share with friends. So yeah, today's show probably gave you a lot to think about. Like how fast we punish someone by doing exactly what they did. Is this really punishment, or is it retribution, so to speak, so that we can feel better? Punishment of this type actually precipitates crime. Think about that. Punishment of this type actually precipitates crime. Many people in jail right now simply learned certain behaviors in response to how they were treated, usually as a child. This doesn't make the behavior right or acceptable, but it does help us to understand that our methods of punishment are not effective at best. In many ways, the perpetrator is also the victim. In fact, virtually all perpetrators were once victims. Maybe it's time to stop hiding from the problem and come up with some real solutions. Yes, I'm talking about our public punishment system, but I'm also talking about our personal punishment systems. Again, how we punish criminals is a direct indication of how we punish each other and even ourselves. We are entering a time of great healing, and so maybe it's also time to heal the concept of right and wrong and good and evil. When that day comes, we will discover that evil ceases to exist and wrong is just a discernment and not an absolute. It's just a story. For the world to be free, we must all be free. Envision that. You have been listening to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice.
Thank you for having Chai with Nanice. Please go to www.nanice.com for great free stuff that will empower you to live your best possible life. Free books, articles, shows, meditation audios, and so much more at nanice.com. That's Nanice.com. Nanice's books are also available in all major bookstores and Amazon. Check out The Infinite Power of You, Even Gandhi Got Hungry and Buddha Got Mad, Zest Point, Lip Prints, and many others by Nanice Ellis. To find out about one-on-one coaching and how Nanice can personally coach you to experience your best life possible, please email mybestlife@nanice.com.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. That's Nanice.com. Thank you.